So I'm sure you're all dying to know what the hot take is, what we've got to say about the passing of the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We'll get there.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
The environment down here is all salt. The ceiling is salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt.
By the way, all this is thank you, John Ward. I'm stealing this one.
Is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg or is it Darth Vader's intern? Something seems sinister since WikiLeaks minding, but fuck the internet, I ain't tired of winning. I'm down to spend a good minute chilling with minute men and women, putting Dems in a prison. Is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg or is it Lucifer's sister? Something's amiss when the skin on your face say fuck it, I quit. You know I ain't tired of winning. I'm down to spend a good minute chilling with prison staff, laughing while we poking the Clintons.
And that's enough of that. But, well, it's Monday morning. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed away. And Cameron's back. In fact, no shit, he's in studio this morning. So we get to just talk about what happened was. What happened was
is Ruth Bader Ginsburg kind of died. And by kind of, she died. And look, we've said before, we're not going to dance on anybody's grave. Don't actually want anybody to die, especially cancer. Apparently that's one of the worst ways to go, because you just slowly get ate up from the inside out, and you reach a point where even morphine only takes the edge off the pain. So, yeah, sorry, and genuinely, to her friends and family for having to endure that with her.
Now, that said, while I'm not looking to dance on anybody's grave, mortality is no reason to canonize someone. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Ruth Bader Ginsburg is due our respect or deference. The woman was vile, right? There's all this, everybody's so respectful, and oh, she was so accomplished, and what she did for women was so important, and she was such a brilliant jurist. She wasn't a brilliant jurist. She was a brilliant sedition strategist.
Yeah, she was a brilliant activist.
She was a judicial activist from day one. And she said as much. On Roe v. Wade, she was very clear that her position on maintaining Roe... Now, there seems to be some confusion out there. Ginsburg was not a Supreme Court justice when Roe v. Wade happened. In fact, when Roe v. Wade happened, Ginsburg was trying a case where an Air Force captain had gotten pregnant in Vietnam, and the Army told her that if she wanted to stay in the Army, she had to get an abortion. And the woman wanted to, and I'm, this may be the only case where I'm on side with RBG. The woman wanted to stay in the Army, the Army Air Corps. She wanted to stay in the Army and not have an abortion. She wanted to use the leave that she had saved up to take the time off to have the baby and then stay in the military. And, okay, if I were willing to concede that women belong in the military in the capacity that they do, then I would be completely on side for that argument. So I'm not going to go down the women in the military rabbit hole. As many of you know, my wife and I were both active duty when we met. But Ginsburg was not pro-women's rights. She was pro-abortion. And that's a very different thing. Now, the passing of Ginsburg, obviously there's a seat on the Supreme Court that needs to be filled, and it should be filled immediately. And let's go ahead and address the McConnell rule. And, let's address the Ginsburg rule too, because that's fun. So there's a lot of hay being made by lefties online about this idea that, well, the Republicans set the precedent that you don't fill the seat in an election year. False. The McConnell rule is if it is an election year and you have divided government, which is to say that that one party controls the Senate and one party controls the presidency, then, in that case, which is what the case was with the Merrick Garland situation, then you do not. Because at that point, with a divided government, you have that the people have not clearly expressed their wishes. However, this year, we have the Republicans in control of the White House and the Senate. And that means that the people have expressed a desire for a unified government, and that unified government has the absolute constitutional authority. And I'm using the word authority for a reason here, because we're going to get to Ginsburg's argument in just a second. Has the absolute constitutional authority to nominate and confirm a judicial appointment, even the Supreme Court. Ginsburg's position on this, when McConnell made the McConnell rule argument over the Merrick Garland appointment, Ginsburg was very clear. No, you must confirm. You must appoint and confirm someone immediately. That is your constitutional duty. So between the McConnell argument, which tells us that while we have government unity between the Senate and the White House, that the appointment should be made, and Ginsburg's own argument that it is a constitutional duty to make the appointment, sorry guys, y'all lose. Donnie Two Scoops gets to put another justice on the bench. And one of the reasons, really the reason that the Dems are freaking out, you're going to hear all this crap about women's rights and gay rights and blah, blah, blah. And no. The reason that they are not happy about Donald Trump flipping the SCOTUS red is because the Democrat relies on the Supreme Court and judicial activism to subvert the elected will of the people. Their objective is to use the Supreme Court rather than a check on government power as an activist instrument to expand government power and curtail your rights. Let's not forget, the same people that hold these positions are right now in California repealing civil rights legislation for the explicit purpose of allowing racial discrimination. Now, they're doing it under the auspices of saying that it is preferable that minorities be allowed to discriminate against white people. That's not my opinion from analysis. That's their explicitly expressed objective. Of course, the legal result will be that whites will also be allowed to discriminate against minorities. So California is just going to become a segregated state. Isn't that a wonderful future? Thank you, Democrat. The long-held objective of the Democrat Party has been to return to the Jim Crow segregation rules. That's one of the big reasons why critical race theory is such a big part of academia today, is a divided country. If you can divide the people up into their little groups, then you can agglomerate the groups against one another. So all you have to do is break everybody up into their tiny little groups of very carefully selected immutable attributes, and then pick one to be the enemy, and suddenly you're the Borg.
No, really, you're the Borg. Resistance is futile.
You will be made to care.
You will be made to care, and really, the current version of resistance is futile is you want to be on the right side of history, don't you? Like, shut up your nose. There is no right side of history. And I guess technically speaking, yeah, there's obviously the right side of history, but a lot of times you can't know that in the moment.
How is there a right side of history?
you could take something like, were you a Nazi or were you not a Nazi? I mean, there was clearly a good side to pick. And
why should we argue against the morality of Nazis when we're talking about Democrats? They're moral relativists. The Democrat argument is that Hitler did nothing wrong because that was morally acceptable for his culture.
Look, I understand. I think moral relativism is a cancer.
Yeah, let me just take a moment here because, wow, many of my very favorite people are in the live chat this morning. Lindsay, Steve, Krista. Morning, sunshine. Good to see you guys. I see my dad's not watching this morning. Oh, that's right, because he's fishing in the wilderness in Maine. Little jealous.
Smidge.
I sent him a GoPro. If he could figure out how to operate it, he should bring back some footage. It's got 3 buttons. 3.
I know.
If I'm being perfectly frank, the GoPro with only 1 button is dramatically more confusing than the one with 3.
I can see that. So far, Lindsay has the best comment, though. You want to be on the right side of history makes me see red. Literally and figuratively. I see what you did there. Well played, madam. Well played.
Yes, indeed. So, Ginsburg, she has to be replaced. It needs to be done immediately. And the arguments for that position come from Mitch McConnell and Ginsburg, most recently and notoriously.
The notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Yes. Now, as to the politicization of Ginsburg's death, she did that. Okay. In fairness, benefit of the doubt, it could be that she did not leave a Lenin-esque last statement in writing, and the is it her daughter or her
I thought it was her granddaughter.
Granddaughter, Clara Sarah, right? The girl's name is Clara Sarah, right?
I haven't heard it pronounced. I've only read it. And I'm like, okay.
Anyway, it's possible that the granddaughter is just a nutbag left-wing activist, and that she's lying, and there was no dying statement. So, benefit of the doubt, I'll concede that it's possible. However, given the interesting proclivity of Ginsburg to, in stark break from the tradition of the Scottish justices, be vocally partisan and politically against Donald Trump, especially, that she would make such a statement as, "My dying wish is that my seat not be filled until until a new president is installed." It's as if she's not only conceding her deep dividing partisanship, but also conceding that she is fully aware, or was fully aware of, and in total support of, the obvious election rigging that's in progress right now. Installed. So, just not dancing on the graves. But you respect Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the same way that the Mongols respected Guan Yu. You fashion a silk bag for the beautiful beard in deference and respect to the formidable opponent. Ginsburg was not a great pillar of justice. Let's not forget, Ginsburg signed on as one of the dissenting opinions in Heller v. D.C. Ginsburg's position on the Second Amendment was not that there is such a thing as a reasonable compromising control of guns, that there's reasonable gun reform or reasonable gun law conform, or there are reasonable restrictions. No. Her position on the Second Amendment was the Second Amendment does not refer to an individual right to keep and bear arms and the ownership of any firearm to include shotguns for sport hunting. Any firearm whatsoever under any condition whatsoever is not permissible to the citizen. That was her position on 2A.
Oh, yeah. No, Steve says that her final statement doesn't overrule constitutional procedure. No, it doesn't, but that's part of the problem with judicial activists. Like, there's a quote from Thurgood Marshall, I can't remember it exactly, but he said, basically, you don't worry about, is this going to be okay? You ram it through, and you make it okay.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of these people think about it. And
what he said was, we will make the law and let the lawyers catch up.
That's it. So the fact that she wants to politicize her own deathbed, and look, she's allowed to, and there's even something for me personally kind of admirable in it, as respect your enemy, that even all the way up to her dying breath, she kept playing the game and playing it effectively.
Yeah. Assuming she actually dictated the statement. In political parlance, it's akin to just continuing to return fire as you're bleeding out on the battlefield. Hey, like I said, mad respect to a formidable opponent. But you will not hear me pretend that she was some righteous force for justice, because she was precisely the opposite of that. For example, on Roe v. Wade, she didn't do Roe v. Wade. Y'all need to get that shit out of your heads. That's not how that went down. But she was a virulent pro-abortion proponent. She was virulently for abortion. Hey, my wife. Judges don't make laws, they interpret. That's what the law says they're supposed to do. But the fact of the matter is, once the court was borked, the politicization of justices was with us ongoing. Bork.
Yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
So, let me get back to Roe v. Wade, because there's a lot of commentary now that Roe v. Wade is now on the ballot. Okay. Sort of. The fact of the matter is, for Roe v. Wade to actually be on the ballot, there needs to be a lawsuit or a law challenged that is taken to the court. And here's what's going to happen. There will be a pro-life activist group that finds a case for the fight and takes it to the Supreme Court. Hopefully, when it gets there, Kavanaugh sprouts a sack again, because I've been deeply disappointed in that sorry sack of shit. He might as well be another Roberts, as far as I'm concerned at this point. But on Roe v. Wade, Ginsburg was very clear that her opinion of Roe v. Wade is that it was an act of correct judicial activism. Now, to be clear, Roe v. Wade is another one of those that people just don't understand. It amazes me how many people have opinions on Supreme Court rulings, and they have no idea what they're talking about. Roe v. Wade did not make it lawfully tolerable to abort your child. Roe v. Wade argued that under equal protection as assumed by the 14th Amendment, we can assume from the, and I quote from the opinion of the court, that from the nebulous penumbra of unenumerated rights, we can assume a right to individual privacy. That statement I agree with. We can assume an individual right to privacy from the nebulous penumbra. That's fine. But the effect of that was that Roe v. Wade claimed that to criminalize abortion is a violation not of the woman's right to choose or her right to kill the baby. No. That it was an invasion of her privacy. If murdering your unborn child is permissible because it's an invasion of your privacy, then we can assume from the unenumerated penumbra of unalienable rights, coupled with the equal protection of the 14th Amendment and the immunity to self-incrimination given by the 5th Amendment, that as long as I don't discuss it, it's perfectly lawful for me to murder anyone in private. That's your argument. If your argument is that because of Roe v. Wade, it is okay to abort children, then you are arguing that murder committed in private is lawful. All murder committed in private is lawful by that argument.
So let's just let's bring it back around.
By the way, anybody interested in a quiet candlelit dinner?
So obviously,
just me and you, nice steak knife.
This this turns up the heat on the election because, I mean, Biden's a dud, Kamala's a dud.
I think the enemy is actually surprised at how big a dud Kamala has turned out to be.
Well, I mean, she dropped out before the first primary. She had that whole flash in the 72nd trimester. Abortions aren't covered, though.
Oh, no. Absolutely. No, Steve, under the argument that I laid out, it's perfectly constitutionally permissible for the Jews to terminate their children right up until viability, which is graduation from law or medical school.
Anyhow, so this has turned up the heat on the election. This is one of the few things that can actually energize the left, because there's nothing to get excited about with Biden. I mean, all he's got to do to be counted as a success is not have any severe screw-ups during a live town hall. And then Kamala, well...
Oh! Hashtag Joe Must Show. The Joe Rogan podcast moderated 4-hour debate. Hashtag Joe Must Show. Run that shit on Twitters. You're tracking on that, right?
Yeah.
Hashtag Joe Must Show.
Yeah, that'd probably be one of the fairest.
I might just spray paint that on the wall.
But this goes back to something that you and I have talked about a lot, where it's irresponsible for somebody to be in poor health and serve on the court.
Yes, and in Ginsburg's case, not only was she in poor health and serving on the court, she was actively lying about her health. She was saying for the last 2 years there have been she's had these scares where she had the falls and all that, but she was actively receiving radiation therapy treatment as recently as May and lying about it. So yeah, Ginsburg was a bad person. She was the enemy, and the fact that she was lying about her health to continue to irresponsible, because while she has been lying about her health and irresponsibly retaining control of a seat on the Supreme Court, some of the decisions that her name is on were penned by her aides, not by her.
Apparently that's pretty common, though. That's one of the reasons why you want to clerk for the court. You get to help Supreme Court justices, and that's a feather in your cap.
Yeah, and it's a good. I mean, most of the Supreme Court justices clerk for other justices. It's kind of an apprenticeship scheme. I'm running low.
Yeah, me too. It's a sad day, and I'm not gonna go get more coffee.
I'm not either. No, I am,
but not at the moment. Yes, of course.
We're doing this.
Yeah, we're still live. I'm aware.
We're in the studio.
I'm here.
You're in the studio.
I am in the studio, and just quick aside. We're actually going to discuss my absence. And it's even going to be related to judicial activism, like like Ruth Bader Ginsburg would be a fan of. However, because there are some legal issues, I can only say that at some point in time in the future, we're going to discuss my absence.
And since we need to get off that topic, because we're not going to discuss it today.
That's correct.
For legal reasons. I'm just going to... Steve said, do you think Rogan can get Biden and Donnie to join him in some DMT on air? That would be a debate we're seeing. Hell yeah, it would. If you get Donnie and Biden... If you get Donald Trump and Joe Biden with DMT with Joe Rogan, you know what happens? Everybody gets 3 scoops, and the Clockwork Elves will sniff Biden's hair.
Are you kidding? That might be in Joe Biden's best interest. When he says something stupid, he's like, hey, listen, pal, I was high.
Yeah. Come on, man. Yes. Yes, Lindsay. The lawyer. So...
Yes, you are 100% correct.
So was it Ruth Bader Ginsburg or was it Lucifer's sister? Something seems sinister when you shit yourself more than a little kid does. Guys, the question of whether... One of the reasons we can see clearly that Joe Biden is not a competent candidate for the presidency is, among other things, among all his gaffes and his clearly failing mental health, the man just falls asleep in interviews on air. We've seen it more than once. Right? That's where Ginsburg was before she died. And okay, so cancer was what got her technically, but let's face it, part of the reason Ginsburg passed away this weekend is because she was as old as Biden.
Yeah, older, but your point stands. She's 87.
Barely. 87?
Yeah, I'm going to say
she's 82. Oh, it's 87. Still, she was as old as... She was Methuselah's grandmother.
Yes, she was with Methuselah. But this is part of like...
Hello.
I know, sometimes the comments are so distracting, especially...
Hello, 911. Yeah, I just saw Father Time's grandmother get run over by a train going 100 billion miles an hour. I think it said Trump on the side. That's a John Ward joke. Okay, this is
another one of those reasons why she should have stepped down. Oh, this is going to be fantastic. This is another one of those reasons why she should have stepped down a long time ago. And I mean, going forward, maybe we just need to talk about how we neuter the Supreme Court. Of course, they'll never be happy about it, but you could argue that the Supreme Court has more power than the president, has more power than Congress. I mean, they're appointed for life, and they're allowed to behave in radically irresponsible ways, like continuing to serve, even though they're literally on death's door. I mean, gosh, you know, I hate to say it, but I really do, because it's going to sound just so cold-blooded, but this is the absolute worst time this could have happened. You have riots, you have people burning down cities, you've got the right convinced that the left is going to cheat in the upcoming election, you've got the left convinced that the right is going to cheat in the upcoming election, and everybody's out to get everybody. Yes?
You've got the left convinced that the right's going to cheat in the upcoming election. You've got the right convinced that the left's going to cheat in the upcoming election. That only one of these groups is trying to change rules.
Yeah, look, I understand that the reality on the ground is there's only one side that's like, hey, guess what? Let's just have millions of people vote by mail and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
And the rules that they're trying to change are it's a blatant cheat grab. Pennsylvania just did away with voter signature verification for mail-in ballots. Okay, if you're suggesting rules to make an election more secure, maybe we can have a conversation about that, but you're actively unsecuring hotly contested election. You're actively seeking to make it easier to cheat. If you're against security, if you're against voter ID, against signature verification, the only reason you could possibly want to make the election less secure is so that you can cheat. At the same time that they're actively trying to cheat and visibly trying to cheat, at the same time they're doing that, they're arguing against the Electoral College. And at the same time all that's going on, we're seeing massive voter fraud happen around the country. And even still further, at the same time all that's going on, we're seeing article after article after article. The only way that the election isn't followed by intense violence is if there is an uncontestable Joe Biden landslide. What if there's a completely uncontrovertible Donald Trump landslide? You're telling me that if Donald Trump wins and it's clear there's no way that there was cheating, because the evidence can only support a Trump win without cheating. Right? Because if there's a Biden win, then all of the conversation leading up to that win from the left suggests that cheating was a major possibility, and that requires an investigation. The only thing you've got to make that suggestion against Donald Trump is the bizarre, unhinged Russia hoax conspiracy theory. And that just doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. So at the same time that you've got them actively pushing for voter fraud, you've got them actively engaged in outright extortion. Outright extortion. If you don't vote for Joe Biden, we will set your country on fire. Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, if we end up with not Joe Biden, as in we end up with Donald Trump, I actually have reasonable faith that the only reasons the riots, I think the riots were allowed to proceed as far as they were, despite the clear line crossing into the territory of active insurrection, acts of war, against which the federal government should be deploying the active duty army to conduct war against these terrorist insurrection agents who are not politically or tactically distinct from Al-Qaeda. The only thing that prevented that from happening is that allowing these Democrats to burn down their cities and run their wealthy voters out of town will work in Donald Trump's favor for the election. And if that were all there were to it, I would say that would have been an irresponsible use of the office by Donald Trump. However, the rest of that math includes that without going to Trump in the election, there's no mechanism by which the BLM and ANTIFA rioting will be suppressed after the election. Because the other thing you can't forget is part of what BLM and Antifa and the left in general likes about Joe Biden is he's malleable, weak, corruptible, and easily controlled. Which means that they will continue to riot to make demands of him if he were to win.
Yes. So, thanks for rabbit holing for a solid 30 minutes there. I was actually going to say something kind of cold-blooded there. Luckily, I never lose my place.
Okay, not 30 minutes.
3 minutes, not 30.
You said 30.
Oh, well, see.
And as rabbit holes go,
that was a short one.
The election is the topic.
Well, Ruth Bader Ginsburg
I'm on topic.
Is the topic, but yeah, okay, fine. But no, the thing that's cold-blooded about it is if you tried to construct a scenario to turn up the heat and make people even crazier and really start to lose their damn minds, having this icon of the left kicked the bucket less than 60 days out from the election. Buddy, that's it right there. I swear you're going to see these things where people are like, oh, what's 2020 been like? And I swear, like, the September 2020 is going to be, RBG died.
Oh, yeah, let's do a little bit of that.
Oh, yeah, no,
So,
see, I was making my cold-blooded...
I'm going to have to slap some of this up in your face.
Well, yeah, okay.
I mean, like this.
No, see, not only was I trying to make a cold-blooded point, but I was trying to segue to the juicy bit here. You should have just trusted me. I'm a good co-host.
This is a compilation of several of them. We're going to go through a few and just chit-chat about them. I'm going to pause them at the end of each segment.
I've just about had it with 2020. I'm done.
It was low-key fuck 2020 until today. Well, we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so you know what? High-key, fuck you 2020.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg just died.
Okay, I was going to actually refute some points, but all we've got so far is an emotional breakdown. We'll just keep going.
Fuck, guys. So I'm sure most of you heard, RBG is left us. And, not gonna lie, I'm a little scared. I feel like she was one of the only things standing between us and fascism. Please vote. Please vote. Please be registered and go vote.
Oh, we will.
I don't want to lose my rights. I don't want to lose my right to health care. I don't want my friends to lose the rights to their marriage. So please go vote.
Okay. She says, I don't want to lose my right to health care, and I don't want my friends to lose their right to marriage. Okay. You have no right to health care. You have the capacity to purchase services made available to you by practitioners of an art.
Yeah, you have the right to seek health care.
If you cannot be pro Obamacare, you cannot hold the position that you have an individual right to health care without arguing that you have the right to someone else's time and labor. You cannot be pro-socialist health care. Socialism is slavery. It's not complicated. The reason that the socialists have slogans like slavery is freedom, work is freedom.
Work is freedom.
No, it's not. Work is not freedom. Work produces freedom. They're not identical in the same way that good, love, and God are. And that's not an unimportant semantic distinction. But the idea that you have the right to someone else's labor, surprise, surprise, Democrat, left wing, you're pro-slavery. Now, on the marriage thing, I don't want my friends to lose the right to their right to marriage. Homosexuals do not have a right to marry. My brother's gay, married, love him, love his husband. And I hope they continue to be happily married. They do not have a right to marry any more than my wife and I had a right to marry. That is an incorrect interpretation of the law and of the natural rights. What we do have as consenting adults is the right to engage in contracts voluntarily and consensually for mutual benefit. What Obergefell did is it took the already existing, deeply unconstitutional, and in the face of the natural law, laws on marriage generally, and further perverted the right of the individual to engage in a consensual contract voluntarily and without interference from an external body. The contracts into which we voluntarily enter with other consenting intelligent adults for any purposes whatsoever. And yes, I do mean that if Cameron and I wanted to enter into a voluntary contract together, that I would kill him or he would kill me in the event that either of us became medically incapacitated or something of that sort. There should be no question under the law as to whether or not we can engage in that contract voluntarily. What happened with Obergefell is we took a law which should not exist to begin with, that allows the government to interfere in the voluntary contract between consenting individuals, which we call marriage, and the law was further perverted to include gay marriage. Here's why the whole LGBTQ community should be up in arms to throw down Obergefell and repeal all marriage law. Because since Obergefell was decided wrongly by the court, namely, it's pure judicial activism, where the court, legislated from the bench, decided that they would determine what the law is rather than interpret what the law says. That's wrong under the law, which means that Obergefell, as a court decision, is not the law. Yes, it's statutory law now. It's precedent set, blah, blah, blah. But it means that the entire question of gay marriage is vulnerable to recapitulation in the future.
Well, Kennedy even wrote it in his opinion.
Had it been done correctly, it would not be vulnerable to repeal.
Yeah, but let's be realistic. Even people like me that opposed gay marriage, like, it's done now. I have no desire to find some test case to send it back to the court. I don't believe in using the courts that way. I am a constitutionalist. Okay, fine. I lost that round. Time to put on my big boy pants and get over it. I don't want to relitigate it. And I think that there's a lot of people like me that were on the other side of the issue.
But there are not all the people.
There's enough, though. There's enough, though.
It doesn't take enough. It only takes a handful.
Of morons.
Critical race theory is part of the conversation. And that happened because a few people thought it was a good idea. Fair enough. That cancer began as a single cell.
See, but the thing that she's talking about, and I don't want my friends to lose their right to marry. Hey, guess what? I don't either. I would oppose this going back to court. Vocally, on this show. I'm doing it right now.
I wouldn't, actually. I'd be happy to see it go back to court. Assuming the objective of the case was to strike down the Obergefell decision and all marriage law. Assuming that the objective of the case was to fight to contract the power of government to interfere in voluntary contracts between individuals, I would support that maneuver entirely. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of minarchist or libertarian lawyers going after it. And fucking professional libertarians are a joke anyway.
I know.
I'm sorry, Steve. Your guys keep putting up garbage.
I swear we're going to win this election. Just how are you going to do it? With Gary Johnson.
Well, he was a little better than Jorgensen.
Except for that whole bake the cake thing.
He was a little better than Jorgensen. Jorgensen said BLM is right. You must be actively anti-racist in order to not be racist.
I think that's like, just quick aside, I think that's part of the problem with the Libertarian Party initially. Like, they keep giving each other these bizarre no true Scotsman purity tests, and they're all found wanting because you can't.
Well, it's not just the okay, now we're off on a tangent, but the Libertarian Party is a national, the big L Libertarian, the party, is a radical leftist party. They're open border and pro-abortion. As long as your political platform includes murdering children and dissolving my country, you will never hear my vote.
Anyhow, do you I have to go kill bugs. Do you want to watch a little more of
Yeah, let's do a little more.
Thank you. Holy fucking shit, you guys! I'm driving a car, but I just got a notification that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died!
She's driving a car. She read the notification and then spent the effort to manipulate the phone enough to go onto video recording. So, okay, just...
Am I surprised that all these are on TikTok?
No. No. Yeah, so the Chinese know that RBG is dead.
Fuck! Could this year get any fucking worse?
I would like to point out also that we have managed to skirt the F-bomb ourselves, but you can't bring a Democrat on the show. It's just...
Ruth! You just had to make it to 2021!
And that's been another piece of Schadenfreude that I've noticed. There are a lot of lefties that are being really cruel to the memory of Ginsburg. They're holding her personally responsible for not holding out until Trump is replaced.
I know, right? And like, what more do you want? She had pancreatic fucking cancer and kept serving. Like,
I mean, I saw one cat. It was "F you" for not retiring under Barack Obama,
which is honestly what she should have done.
Yes,
Obama could have replaced her with another liberal justice, and now. But see, it's those lefties and how much they like power. They just can't stand it, and she's.
Well, they're big fans of the stacked court because the left is terrified of Democrats are terrified of democracy. They're terrified of the idea that the people will get to select representatives who then make decisions rather than just issuing law by decree and fiat.
It goes all the way
Make
back.
no mistake, they loved Obama because, not in spite of, but because he did the whole thing with the phone and the pen.
I've got a phone. I've got a pen. But yeah, it goes all the way back to they can't run on their actual platform. They have to lie and skirt the truth. They can't come right out and say, and ironically, the only one who did it was Bernie. But they can't come out right out and say, oh yeah, I'm going to raise your taxes. I'm going to pass all sorts of regulations that tell you what you can and can't and must do. And I'm going to hamstring the economy. I'm going to make it difficult for you to own a car or make certain healthcare decisions for yourself. And one of the most telling moments, I would say, of the last couple of decades of politics is all the way back in like 2009, 2010. Barack Obama's having that healthcare town hall, and the woman stands up and says, okay, so under your system, how would this work? My mother is in her 90s, but she still has a zest for life. and she needs a pacemaker or a kidney transplant. I don't remember what it was, but it was a medical procedure. It says, would you take into account her zest for life as part of her medical care? And all by itself, just the fact that you have a citizen of this country kind of asking permission of the president, am I allowed to do this medical procedure for my mother? That all by itself was spooky. But then that's where the answer came from, where Obama said, well, you know, sometimes you're just better off giving people the pain pill.
Yeah. And that's... Yeah, and that goes right to that argument. We should have this conversation on air again sometime and focus more on it. But like I was talking about the healthcare earlier, and if you're pro social medicine, if you're pro Obamacare, then you're pro slavery, and you don't believe that people have a right to healthcare. See, when you're arguing for the free market solution, the argument is you have the right to anything you can afford. I have the right to keep and bear arms. That doesn't mean that you, the taxpayer, are responsible for my ammo supply. That doesn't mean that the government has to supply me with a firearm. It means that if I want one, I can have it because I can go and purchase it, and you can't stop me. Oh, but I invite you to try. Now, if you've got health care available in a free market, you can have whatever you want as long as you can pay for it. And please believe, a healthcare market that was a completely free market would be more than happy to put you into, and this is a good thing, they'd be more than happy to put you into eternal debt for life-saving treatment. And understand this. Imagine a healthcare system that's willing to extend you infinite credit, finding itself suddenly in its own best interest to keep you alive and paying that debt for as long as possible. Whereas what the Democrat wants is a system where we can determine that, you know what? You just don't deserve to live. How is you're in your 90s and we've decided that you can't have the life-saving treatment that you want to buy with money you've earned over the previous 90 years? How is that the same as having a right to health care? If someone can deny you something, then you don't have a right to it. See, the Democrat argues that if you're not explicitly, if a thing is not stolen from other people at gunpoint by force under threat of death, that it's not a right you have. It's the opposite of the truth. It's 2 + 2 is 5. It's slavery is freedom.
And freedom is slavery.
They can't say words that are true.
And by the way, Lindsay says, before I go kill bugs, I should change my shirt. I look like a hobo. Do you want me to do that, like, on air? Because this isn't this kind of show.
You should get better at telling jokes.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to feed the trolls.
It was a nice try.
It was. It was an attempt. And yes. Good try.
That's all we've got this morning. We probably need to wrap it up. We've spent an hour with you chuckleheads. We appreciate you watching the show. We love you. Thanks for watching. It is time to go make the donuts. Oh, look at my wrist. And I have to go to the store because we're out of paper towels, I think. So, y'all be safe out there. Love you. See you hopefully tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Now, I say hopefully. Sometimes, sometimes I work late and I oversleep. It happens. But bye.